Hey guys, Benny Bam here, coming at you strong. Just got done with the third game, Sunday game of the St. Louis homecoming series at Busch Stadium in St. Louis for Albert Pujols, who signed with the Angels in 2011 under a little bit of scrutiny on both sides of the fence there. For everything that's happened, obviously, Angels fans get a little disappointed with his numbers since he's come sometimes, but his mentorship of a lot of the players, including and primarily, of course, Mike Trout, is huge for that. And you see the same relationship that he had with Yadier Molina, as those two share a lot. Yadi's walking out, waiting for applause every at bat, basically not refusing to get back there and catch until the fans give Pujols his due each and every time he comes to the plate. And a due that Yachty's happy with. They had all these little tinkering things. If you guys go on Angels Baseball Addicts, I posted some videos of some of the things that, like, Yachty was untucking Pujols' shirt when he would go to first base, and like all this funny little stuff they were doing between each other, all these little familiar things between really good friends. It was said that the Molina brothers, Benji, Jose, and Yachty, were having I think they said a card game or something last night with Pujols. So just a really cool. Pujols says one of the best weekends of his career. He was obviously overwhelmed with emotion. He took a curtain call at the end, which is very unlike him because he doesn't like to show up the other team. But since it's St. Louis, he knows that they understand. Wainwright had posted some nice stuff on social media. Jared Weaver from the Angels, former ace pitcher for the Angels, that ended in San Diego a couple years ago, said that he wishes he had been in the dugout for this moment and that it had happened sooner. And obviously, even though Pujols isn't necessarily retiring this year, it doesn't feel like he's going to have another chance to go back to Busch Stadium as a player anyway. He may go back, who knows, maybe he'll work for the Cardinals after he's done working for the Angels, maybe, but he still lives there, he still has ties there. So fantastic weekend, just full of all kinds of emotion and stuff. Angels only get one of the three games, and they almost blow the third one, and they were up 6-0, ended up winning 6-4, and all of that happened with 2 outs. That entire situation. I really thought at the end of the 8th inning that they were going to leave Buttrey in for the 9th, just because why not? Like, just let him finish the game out. And instead, they went to Jake Jewell, who struggled a little bit. Hansel Robles came in and ended up closing it, but he gave up 4 runs. Of course, a couple of those were Jewell's responsibility, and Jewell had given up a solo shot before that. So, not the way you want to end a game, but they get the win. Can carry that on. Team's got a day off finally. It seems like they haven't had a day off in forever, and St. Louis does too. And then another National League series follows this as they go to Cincinnati. So they're going to be in Ohio. Haney's going to be pitching the first game. They haven't announced the game starter for Wednesday yet, which leads me to believe that it's going to be Cahill. Just because he's been doing a rehab start, and I don't think Harvey's ready yet, unless Harvey's progressing faster than I thought. JC Ramirez, I don't think is ready yet either. So it's going to be either them, or they're going to go with somebody like Dylan Peters or somebody like that, unless they want to fast forward Canning to that second game against Cincinnati. It's a quick 2-gamer, 25th and 26th against Cincinnati. Those are 10:07 and 8:07 p.m. respective start times. Of course, those are Eastern times, because Ohio is in the East Coast time frame there. So, and then after that, we're gonna go back home. Or actually, no. Those games are going to be at 10 and 8 o'clock, at Angel Stadium. They're going home for that series. They're not going to be in Ohio. So that's actually going to be at Angel Stadium. Then they're going to have 4 games after that against Oakland at Angel Stadium. Those are the first 3 are 10:07 starts, and then those, of course, that's Eastern starts. I think these times are, so they're actually Pacific would be 3 hours earlier. And then the last game on the 30th, which is a week from today, would be Oakland. That's a 4:07 start time. That's probably 1 o'clock, 1:07 in Pacific. And then they go to Texas for 4 games and to Houston for 3. So, the Angels have some divisional games coming up here. They're going to have quite a few, 11 in a row. A chance to really get some ground, especially against Oakland, Texas, and Houston in the wild card and in the division. So if they can win a majority of those games, they're going to be right there, especially in the wild card. And tonight's game was huge. They really needed that victory. As we kind of look at the standings right now, it's not real impressive because obviously they just lost 2 games. But luckily, if you're going to lose games, it's better to lose them to a team like St. Louis than it is to lose them to a team in your division where the full game it's a half game up and a half game down, so it's a full game every time you win and lose. I know it doesn't seem like that would make a difference, but it does, and it also becomes a factor in tiebreakers and stuff later. Of course, you have to make the playoffs and be in that position for it to matter, but ultimately it can matter. The Angels are now 39-40. They're fourth in the division. They're 2 games back of Oakland. They're about 3.5 games back at Texas. So these are really big games coming up in this next week already. These are going to be decisive games potentially in the season. Even though there's still a lot of games left, these are going to be some big games, because if they lose a lot of these games, they're going to fall almost completely out of contention. And the way they were scoring runs before these last couple days, it looked like they were on a pretty good pace here. They really need the pitching to step up. These guys have got to shut down the other team in these games. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. They have to be able to do that. They're 4 games back still in the wild card, which is amazing considering that they just lost 2 out of 3. They're still only 4 games back. Oakland's 2 games back. Boston's 1 game back. The Rangers are a half game back, and the Indians right now are in that second wild card spot. And Tampa Bay's come back to the pack. They were like 6 games above the second team in the wild card. Now they're only 2.5. So they're actually only 6.5 out of the first wild card spot right now, believe it or not, even though they're a game under 500 still. So the Angels are right there. And with the offense back, and they're getting Simba back, if they can just avoid some major injuries to key contributors, I mean, they're going to be okay. They have the depth to do it. They just have to get the pitching to do it. They have to have starters go 6-7 innings so they don't tax their bullpen. Their bullpen's really good when they don't go that long. And then it'll also give guys like Middleton and Ramirez time to work themselves back to where they need to be and not rush themselves back to try to help the team. Buttrey and Robles are good at the end of that bullpen, but we'll see. Cam is pitching better, but I don't know if you want to depend on him down the stretch to save you. They're going to want to have Middleton, Buttrey, and Robles available, and the way you do that is by not using them all up every single game. And then especially in like losing efforts, like tonight if they lost, they used both those guys, and then what did they get to show for it, right? So luckily they won, so you feel a little better about it. And then having a day off tomorrow, it's not that big of a deal, especially because they didn't have close games where they were trying to close the last couple days, even though they would have probably rather had it that way with St. Louis. So guys, fantastic weekend once again. Congratulations to Albert Pujols, everything there. Weird strike zone call tonight. I can't believe the Angels won that game, because this whole weekend has been bizarre. Angel Hernandez is one of the weirdest strike zones I've ever seen. He was calling pitches inside and outside, and then he wasn't calling them inside, and then he was calling them inside, and then I couldn't figure out what the hell he was doing. And he was calling high strikes, and he was calling low strikes. I was like, dude, you have the biggest strike zone I have ever seen. But then it goes back to normal size. Then it goes back to like crazy big again. I don't understand it. If you look at all the pitches he was calling strikes, his strike zone would be literally like the entire box. Like, it doesn't even make sense. Like or most of it anyway. It would have been from about where the knees of a right-handed batter were to about where the knees of a left-handed batter would be on the same side. Like, collectively, it just didn't make any sense. He was almost, he almost hit Pujols, and Pujols was like, "What? Like, that was a strike? Like, how did that almost that?" That doesn't make any sense. So anyway, saw Trout strike out, or actually argue with him, which is weird because Trout doesn't argue with umpires. I mean, I know it wasn't an argument, but that was very bizarre. So hopefully the Angels, their pitching, as long as their pitching holds up, they'll be in these games. If they can get some hitting on top of that, they'll probably win the games. And if they can, but these teams know you well. Texas, Oakland, Houston, and those teams can score runs. The Texas games are usually shootouts with offense. The Oakland games are usually low-scoring games. At the most there's like 5 or 6 runs usually, and then against Houston, it's usually like they're shooting it out and we're low-scoring. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully the Angels can get it together. This next 2 weeks here is going to show you pretty much what they've got in the tank for the rest of the season. It's going to show you, now that we have some of these pieces back, Simmons should be ready to go probably, if not the first series, at least after that. He may not play those 2 games against Cincinnati. If they're smart, I wouldn't even play him in those games. Just Regnifield's been playing okay, even though he made that weird base running error where he fell down today. But that's okay, whatever. That's going to happen from time to time. Weird stuff like that. You'll learn to have the proper lead for primary and secondary lead where that won't happen anymore. But hopefully he gets that figured out, and he'll only get better and better the more that he plays. So I would just keep Simba out these 2 games against Cincinnati that are against NL teams, and just wait and have Simba rearing and ready to go. Maybe just give him batting cage work the next few days. So he's rearing and ready to go by the time we get to these AL West teams that we really need to make an impression and win a majority of these games to get ourselves in a good position. And if we have a really good couple weeks, we can get ourselves in a really, really good position where maybe we can come back to the pack in the division a little bit. But we won't get ahead of ourselves. Let's just try to win a majority of the games and stay in this wild card hunt, or maybe get a little closer there. Again, the games against Texas and the A's are direct correlations. Right now, they're 4 games back and the A's are 2 games back. If you lose a game to Oakland, you are automatically 5 back and then 6 back. And then, those are huge. If you go through 3 games and you get swept, you're pretty much out of it already. So these are huge games. So big stretch coming for the Angels right now. Now that we got the nice sentimental Pujols stuff off to the side here to appreciate and have wonderment about, and I'm sure we'll see articles and videos and stuff for days and weeks and maybe years to come about that. First ballot Hall of Famer, as is Yadier Molina, as is Mike Trout. But ultimately, we need to figure out what we're going to do this year, and it'll set the precedent for what happens with the Angels beyond this year too, with who they want to keep, who they don't, all that stuff, and how they want to surround Mike Trout now that they have the security to know that he's going to be wearing a halo over his head for the rest of his career pretty much. So guys, always wonderful to be with you. I'm trying out some new software and stuff, so let me know what you think. You can always add comments and stuff. Please, there are a couple things. All I ever ask for this stuff is not monetary. There's no, you don't have to give me anything. And you don't even have to do what I'm asking, but all I would ask is that you go to Angels Baseball Addicts page, not the group. The group's awesome, and you can comment in the group. Do whatever you want in the group. I don't care about that. Outside the guidelines, of course, but as long as it's not crazy, you're good. Go to Angels Baseball Addicts page and like it. Okay, that's huge, because what it does is it creates exposure for the group. Because then all your friends see everything, and then all their friends see everything. So it's a trickle down effect. It's like Wayne's World, and they tell 2 friends, and they tell 2 friends, and so on and so on and so on, right? And the other thing is that I really need you guys to do, because it doesn't involve Facebook and it's not as easy as one click, is when you see me post stuff on YouTube, like this on YouTube, like it and subscribe. Those are huge, because what it does is it allows all sports fans then to be able to see the page and subscribe to the page. And every bit, all this stuff, what we're trying to do is grow. And what we can do by growing is that then we can get to a point where when we have enough growth, we can add monetization that doesn't come from you guys. It comes from putting advertisements in videos and in articles and all this stuff. Like you see when you go to a HaloHangout.com article, you see ads in the article. It doesn't affect your ability to read the article. It doesn't make the article any less interesting. It just adds in between some of the blank paragraphs. You'll see little ads for this or that or that, and you don't even really notice them after a while once you start reading it, right? But that allows us to monetize, which allows for better equipment. It allows us to do other things too that ultimately are going to make it better for everybody. And then money doesn't come out of any of our pockets to do that. And all we have to do in order to do that is create a wide net of an audience that is worth these advertisers taking the time and money to do that for us. So please, if you're in the Angels Baseball Addicts group, if you can see this video, you should like Angels Baseball Addicts, the page. You can stay in the group. It's not one or the other. Like a lot of places go, oh, well, if you go to the page, we're going to end the group. No, I don't do that. Don't worry about any of that. We're going to have the group. We're going to have the page. Those 2 things are vital. They're never going to go anywhere. I should have created the group when I created the page. I didn't. I don't know why. For whatever reason, it wasn't a big deal at the time. I don't know. I never thought that it would blow up the way that it did. So I just wasn't thinking that clearly far ahead. I was just glad to have a group where we could talk about it, right? But now we're to the next point where this is becoming a business, where in order to do the things I need to do, we have to do that. So always like the Angels Baseball Addicts page, and always like and subscribe on YouTube. If you don't have a YouTube account, you can sign up for one for free. You just go on there and type in an email, a password, done. Boom. You have a YouTube account. If you don't do that already, you should, because YouTube gives you perks and stuff for all the videos that you watch. So if you just go on there and watch and you're never registered, you should go on there anyway. Even if you don't like our stuff, you should go on and do that, because you'll get better perks and stuff. So guys, please like and subscribe to YouTube. Okay, Angels Baseball Addicts on YouTube, and like the page on Facebook, and always contribute in whichever way you have. that you want to talk about. Group, page, you can comment on underneath the videos on YouTube. You can do all that stuff, whatever you want to do. And each one of them has their own outlets. We actually even have a Twitter and an Instagram. The Twitter, actually, I have Benny Bam Legacy, which is mine. And then we also have Angels Baseball Addicts. And then Instagram is just Benny Bam Legacy, because I don't have enough followers on there to worry about us having Angels Baseball Addicts, maybe eventually. But once we get this all rolling even in a bigger direction, it's already rolling. But this is all just to continue that momentum in a positive way that we can then monetize through advertisers without asking for any money out of anybody else's pocket or our own, right? So, guys, let's do it. Like, subscribe. Go Angels.